Give me a moment with your friend. I've never been up to enough for my thoughts before.
Welcome to the Only One Mic podcast, called Gerard. Just me, Brooklyn Dre. Jess, we got a special guest today. Can you tell us who it is?
Yes, I can. Very happy to announce this guest. Today's guest actually happens to be a friend of mine. So that's always cool when you get to shout out your friends and big up your friends. I like to congratulate my friends on doing big things. And before we get into what she actually created, she created an app. I'm gonna let her explain all of that, give you information on how to contact her. But before we get into all of that, I'm very proud of my friend because she is like a big person in my community. Outside of this app, she is the head of, if not the head of, she's one of the heads of the Juneteenth committee. They already started working really hard. She is constantly engaged in community events. She works very closely with the mayor out here. And she's just an all-around good person. And I love her to death. She gets on my nerves, but I'm so proud of her. So I'm glad she's here. Welcome, Adrienne.
Thank you, Meech. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me down to speak today.
Yes, very happy for you to be here today. So what I would like to do is, I actually would like you to just go ahead and jump right in. Let us know about the app that you created and tell us a little bit about the process.
All right, so I am Adrienne Michel, and I created the SafeStops app. It's going to be a mobile app that can be used as a catalyst during a traffic stop. So instead of you having to dig for your wallet and worry about a police officer standing in your grill, after they pull you over, you pull out your phone, or if you have your phone on your dashboard, they got those little gadgets, you could put it in events or whatever. You have your phone on there, you could pull up the app and digitally transfer your driver's license, registration, and insurance card directly to the officer by them scanning a QR code. I came up with the concept, just had mentioned, very involved with the community. I'm about women empowerment, community empowerment, youth empowerment, just all around whatever it is to bring unity, peace, and equality to us and to those around us. I'm all for it. In the middle of the pandemic, we created a vision board party. We had to do it through Zoom. And I ended up creating vision board kits. And I had to deliver them because we was on lockdown, couldn't leave. So while I was out delivering a kit, I had a girlfriend of mine with me, and she suffers from like a mild case of anxiety. She doesn't drive, and she was just, rolling with me for the day. I get pulled over in the Bronx. I'm a Bronx native, but I live in Westchester County now. And as I'm traveling this road, it's a service road right next to a parkway. I'm getting ready to get on the exit to get on the parkway to head back home. And I get pulled over by an officer. It was a random check stop. It wasn't like a Target where they see me and they decided to pull me over, but it just had been a checkpoint. They were randomly selecting cars. They let a couple of cars in front of me go. And when I approached, they decided to ask me to move over. My car, I have an old car. I have a 2002 Honda Accord. I probably couldn't pay somebody to steal this car. You hear me? But they decided that they were going to pull me over. And when I asked for the reason, they said, well, there's been a string of auto thefts in the area, and we just want to make sure. So granted, all right, cool. I'm digging for my paperwork. I decide that I'm going to give the officer my information. I just so happen to glance to my right, and my girlfriend is stuck there stiff. And I'm like, what's going on? And as the moment I'm watching her positioning, I see there was a female officer. The officer on my side's partner has a flashlight. And she's literally scaling up and down my friend with this flashlight in the car. Mind you, it was like a warm December night. Normally, these temperatures are not what we experienced. The windows were down. It had just probably it wasn't even dark. It was just pretty much dusk. And having that flashlight go up and down my friend, it did something to me. I wasn't comfortable. I seen visibly she wasn't comfortable. And I kind of got annoyed. So I asked the officer who was attending to me, I said, well, is that necessary? And he was like, oh, don't worry about it. Pay attention to me. So I was like, okay. That's twice he done cut me short and he kind of just blew me off. So I said, you know what? It's not the time to kind of use my mouth. I'm not the only person in this car. We already know how they feel. So we're just gonna move along with the process. So he tried to change the subject. He's like, oh, everything came back good with your paperwork. You must be a good driver. You don't have no tickets. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he let me go. But it resonated with me for days. I would wake up and I was like, oh, this process doesn't seem right. I've been pulled over before. There was just something about that stop that kind of just brought everything back. All the things that we see in the news, people getting killed, people getting shot, people getting beaten up, and all these things is just kind of like playing back. And I'm telling my boyfriend, like, listen, it just doesn't sit right. And, at that time he's trying to play devil's advocate. And he says, well, babe, they were just doing their job. That could have been somebody else's car, somebody car who was stolen that they were pulling over. I said, yeah, but I just feel like they were aggressive for two women in the car who was compliant. And it was just a little aggressive to me and unnerving. So he was like, well, what you going to do about it? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I thought about it. I had just enrolled into a business program that they were offering in my county. And going through the business program, first couple of stages of it, they're just asking about you, your passion, and things like that. And I was going in for event planning because that's another one of my little hobbies that I do. And after I got through the first stage where it really digs deep into who you are, your purpose, what you see for your life, for your family's life, it kind of came back to me then that, no, I need to pursue this and I'm going to go forward with it. And that's how I arrived at the SafeStops mobile app.
I was going to ask, what was the process that you had to go through to actually create that app?
That was the same question I wanted to ask as well.
See, we here. Bro, we here.
Mine melting.
Well, I'm still in the process. If anybody is familiar with business, nothing happens, instantaneously. So I had to go out and talk to people. I went out to, find out what retired officers felt about the process. I talked to ordinary citizens. I talked to politicians. Everybody kind of gave me, their various answers about how they felt about traffic stops. A lot of them, both Black, brown, and white, has all said they have felt some type of anxiety and things behind traffic stops. So something like this probably would be or go over well with the public as well as the police. Spoke with police chiefs. They told me, we find a lot of discovery in traffic stops, hence drugs, hence guns. Who are they looking for? Who are they looking at when they're finding these things? We already know it's the brown and Black community. So I've seen his hesitation. I said, no worries, kept doing my prospecting, asking questions. And, I decided that I'm still go forward with it. I'm not going to allow one officer give me credentials and deter me from the larger goal. So where I am today, I have created the website. I created a prototype. I'll send you guys a link if you guys want to test it out and let me know any personal feedback if you actually have it in your hand and what you think of it.
Well, we don't have to get stopped by the cops for us to test this out, do we?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I don't want to go out here and do something reckless to get pulled over.
Listen, if you attempt to, you cannot charge it to the game. The app is not live.
So what is the projected date for all of this to be finalized and complete? Are you looking for maybe 2023? We're pushing or are we looking for the end of this year? I just need to know when to throw the party.
Got you. So the launch party is going to probably happen in early 2023. The developers are giving me about a 4 to 6 month building time, and we're currently getting ready to enter into our fundraising stage. The app itself costs about $40,000 to $60,000 to get it operating and on an app store. Given the different features and things like that, and that's with me holding some features back because I just got to test it and see how it works and let it gain popularity, and then we could go in and really reach its full potential, because even what I've created today is not the full extent of it. This is going to be a part of a semi contactless traffic stop, whereas I'm trying to get to a point where it's fully contactless, where the app to talk to the police cruiser, and we communicate that way, and it's completely takes away the interaction.
So you'd be working, that would be something where the DMV would be involved too. I would take it because everybody's information that goes into the system would have to come from DMV as well, correct?
That's correct. And for the most part, you'll be able to do everything on your own, upload your documents. On the DMV side, they would just pretty much validate and let you know, if your information is current or not. They won't be able to say you can't use your ID because it's expired. But they might be able to give you a notification to say, hey, it's coming due. And, it can be a full functioning app where it can communicate with them. I'm also looking to link up with the courts. So that way, if you do get a ticket, you're able to pay it and see it digitally and not even have to worry about showing up to court unless you want to fight it.
Say I'm from, Brooklyn and I'm driving in Jersey and I get pulled over in Jersey. Does does that app link to those local precincts and, maybe
We're just starting in New York State first. Or...
Right. So good question. I've been discussing with some of my, I don't want to say counselors, they're not counselors, some of my mentors. And they think just roll it out because once it goes into the app store, there's no way to limit what state it's accepted in. However, it's going to take a team of people to reach out to these police departments to get them on board. So that way they don't roll up on somebody and they don't have the capability to scan the QR code, or they act like they don't know anything about it. And that doesn't, force them to have to use it. So we're trying to see if we can mitigate the violence and not cause confusion or poke the bear, which is a term that I use often because, a lot of times people think that just because you have a resource, that means that you can act like an asshole. You can't,
Right.
You want to, this is going to be a tool for people to use that, you just trying to get to where you go and avoid any kind of conflict, period.
Eliminate some of the fear.
Right.
Yeah.
And anxiety.
Yeah, what you said is very important. I mean, a lot of times it's, you can find a bad police officer, but a lot of times it's the attitude that goes along with it. I mean, we can prevent a lot of things, you know what I mean? But, the police do have their days too.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do. And you mentioned Jersey. There's been a lot going on in Jersey right now. I'm sure they could have used the app like this. And the thing is, with information technology constantly evolving, all you're probably going to need is a cell phone. That's it. The app, it'll be right on your cell phone. So there's no reason why police shouldn't be able to get on board. Everybody should be required. It should be an administrative side to the app or something like that, and then a civilian side.
How do you envision the training looking for different officers in different states?
Good question. I guess that's another reason why I have some hesitation with introducing it to different states immediately. Every police department operates differently. They're like their own individual entity when it comes down to rules, protocols, and procedures. So I would have to have a team that just literally goes across the nation and kind of, fine tune their policies and procedures and see how we could have it work in each state and things like that. As far as training for the public, probably just a YouTube tutorial on the website on how you could go about using it. And as far as the police training, we'll be going into these police departments and it will be a training like they pay for all the other training. They pay for the stimulations to go on how to use certain equipment that they acquire. So it'll be something similar like to that.
Do you anticipate any type of legal borders being set up that might stifle this a little bit? Or, have you had a team that looked at that?
I want to say that it could potentially pop up. There's none right now. One thing I could say about law enforcement, as far as on the local level, they're really slow about doing things and adapting. So by the time this rolls out, they'll be playing catch up on trying to find a way on how to stop it. And by then, so many people will be using it, they won't even be able to justify it. The only thing that they could probably say would be, privacy concerns. And the only reason for that is because even with the messaging system, the system is supposed to let the driver know who's who's stopping them by name, their badge number, what department they belong to, the reason for the stop, and what the end result of the stop was. That way, each driver has a transcript of what took place. In addition to, we'll keep a copy of a transcript from start to finish. Once that app is activated, we'll know everything that's taking place that's within the capacity of the app. And it's almost like
It's a file on the officer or something like that, or where it's like, you know, you can see where as this particular officer is constantly, you know, profiling people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Repeat offenses. That's really smart. That's a really
Cool.
good idea.
Yeah, very good.
And it keeps receipts. It keeps receipts for everybody, because you might have somebody that's constantly getting stopped because they constantly doing something.
That's right. And that's the exact purpose behind having the transcript, because we can't just rely on what the police reports say. It's just, and it's not fair that only the police have the report. Why don't we have some type of receipt to show what may have happened, where things could have went wrong, and why is this one officer constantly stopping people that look a certain way in a certain area during certain times in certain locations? Like, there's so many different factors when these people are trying to get away with things that we're trying to narrow it down and, you know, provide some type of recourse.
It's good to have accountability when they're making these traffic stops, and that's the problem, is that it's zero accountability on the part of the officer and less information for the part of the person that's being pulled over or, you know, stop. Speaking of stop, do you envision this being used for the stop and frisk and things like that, or?
So that's a good question. I've been asked that before as well. It's a little harder to work on tools for beat officers on the street, because it's almost, I mean, you would be able to provide this to them, but if they have reason, probable cause for stopping you or coming for you, it's hard to kind of justify that there was no reason to be stopped and that you complied. Because they could easily say, I seen him walk out the store with an item in the store, period, point blank. Driving, that's different, because you got a lot of factors that go into driving. They have to account for why they're stopping people, you know, and there's usually other people on the road with you. So I wouldn't probably touch that area right now. I would have to learn more about how they feel about technology doing this with traffic stops. And I'm open to creating whatever solution that's going to keep our brothers and sisters of color safe. Period.
I mean, I foresee like this being something that could even aid when it comes to accidents. This would be a great tool that could have been used, like, you know, for this young lady in Elizabeth, New Jersey, that had the little, remember we was talking about this the other day, guys? She had the fender bender or whatever. And the guy, when she was taking pictures of the car and the damage on the car, the guy hopped in the car and just started trying to run her over. Yeah. She's in the hospital now, but one of the officers that actually came to the scene started her whole GoFundMe, and I think they're over $70,000 right now that they raised for her because her insurance didn't cover all of her medical expenses. But I foresee something like that, you know what I mean? Because if you're putting it into an app, it's alerting everybody right away. So you already have who's at the scene. You know what I mean? For the most part, you will hope that nobody will put fraudulent information in the system. You will hope that everybody's stuff matches up. You know what I'm saying?
That's the hope.
Right.
That's the hope.
That's the hope.
That's the hope. But, you know, unfortunately enough, I come from a background where I know a lot of criminal minds. And
that's a whole fact.
I kind of thought through it. You know, I kind of, you know, said, well, what kind of ways can somebody try to beat the system in this manner? And that's another way the Department of Motor Vehicle could come on to kind of like validate whether or not, you know, this information matches the ID information that's uploaded. And, you know, just additional verification processes. Even I thought about if somebody loses their phone, you know, and they steal somebody's car, your phone's in the car, they steal the car, they got your phone, you get stopped, they can show you, but there will have to be a verification process like the thumbprint or the facial ID to say, I am who I say I am, and everything matches up.
Right.
Now let's look at it on a different level. Has anybody ever come to you, Adrienne, and said, listen, a person who wants to use this app on their phone, cop pulls them over. Person reaches over to get that phone, cop doesn't know it's a phone, now we marching in the street. Like, is that something that someone approached you in terms of safety of a person being pulled over?
Yes. Can we absolutely eliminate every tragic traffic stop with this app? No. Can we try? Absolutely. Another feature that I was looking to roll out with this is two things. One, that kind of prompts the app to say like positive quotes, positive affirmations to keep the person calm and to kind of keep them on track, as well as instructions on what to do.
I think once the ball gets rolling, if you get pulled over and it's kind of like something that's repetitive and you say, listen, I'm about to pull out my phone to show you my QR code or something like that, the cop probably would be more at ease at that point. You know what I mean? Because he's saying like he's showing me something that, you know, that he got his driver's license, he got everything. I actually had a question in regards to the police department. I would think they would want to play a bigger role in this game, because there should be something that, because the biggest thing when you get pulled over is about the warrants. They want to see if you got warrants. I mean, is there any way or something that they're developing within the program where it could say, well, listen, not only does he have his paperwork, he doesn't have any warrants or anything like that. I don't know if that's wishful thinking, but I'm just throwing it out there.
No, that's a great question. I want to say that I had spoken to a couple of retired officers, and some of the things that they told me was, when you're being pulled over, they pretty much already know what they need to know about you.
Right.
Already.
Right. Pretty
you
much.
know, that's through the license plate reader. That's their method of playing, got you. I just want to see how you're going to play this thing out, or how we're going to go about things.
Right.
Well, people that's being stopped with a clean license plate, they have to investigate further.
Right.
Somebody that they know is dirty, they're like, okay, right. They like, how you going to wiggle your way out of this? How are you going to act? Are you going to act like you already know what's going on in the background and just kind of smoothly go into things, or are you going to act like a fool and let us validate while we do what we do? Not to say that it's right. But you know.
Yeah, I was more so thinking in regards to a person like myself. I don't do no crime or nothing like that. We ain't into nothing crazy. I just want the stop to go as fast as possible. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm thinking like maybe like, you know, I could show him the phone, the license, the registration is good. He ain't got no warrants. They know it's clean already. We can get it ready to go. You know what I mean? So I mean, if you're bad, you're gonna have to do what you're gonna have to deal with anyway. If you're going the wrong way, but you know, and I know pretty much when they pull you over, they pretty much got an idea of what's going on anyway.
Not for nothing, I think that it's a form of protection for the police also. You know, I think back to when I was living in Wilmington in Southbridge, you know, and I don't know if y'all remember this, but I know it had to be like 2015, excuse me, like 2014, 2015 or whatever. And it had to be around October. The cop went to pull somebody over, or, you know, I was on Claymont, which is a one-way. So down by like Apple and Peach, like when you're going down my block more, the cop tried to do a traffic stop down there. Remember, the cop got shot in the face. Thank God he lived. But I'm thinking, you know, like something like that could have maybe been prevented, or it could have gave the cop a warning sign through the app that this is somebody that has warrants, or this is a repeat offender, or this is just the last time this person was arrested or pulled over, they was found with a weapon on them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe the cop side could be a little bit more involved also to protect them.
But that would be more of the cop side, more on the onus of the police department, because that information, if the person had warrants and all of that, should have been in their computer when they pulled it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that wouldn't be kind of on the onus of the app. Correct me if I'm wrong, yo.
But what I'm saying is, if the app the more involved the app gets, it'll be able to protect both parties involved.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the way I'm looking at it. I know this is your vision. I'm not trying to take over, but I know how your mind works. So I know that you probably already thought about all of this stuff 1,000 times over. And I'm just thinking, and I know her, and I'm thinking that eventually it's going to get so detailed and so intense, you know what I mean, that it will be able to to let both parties know what's going on way before.
I was going to say the basic idea is just a wonderful idea, but I'm quite sure there's going to be a lot of add-ons and stuff like that could be add on later on down the line to make things a whole lot better.
Correct. Some of the things is funny because my developer, I guess he got a feel for my personality because as just said, I overthink things. Like I've spent nights not even sleeping, calling Google and Microsoft help team, asking them questions as if the app is already developed, but just to kind of have an idea on how a level of customer service should be at that time, because we get pulled over at any time of the day. So
Right.
just to keep me abreast and keep me in a way where I'm putting the pressure on that this has to roll out right. Like it can't come out shoddy, right? So to touch on to the subject of how do we keep the police safe using this app, right? Because that was thought of. My thing was maybe this will help keep them out the street while they're attending to a car, and there'll be less hit and runs or less, death coming from a car that doesn't see you standing in the street while you have somebody pulled over,
Right.
So that was one of the benefits that I thought about. Something else that I kind of considered was the fact that just changing the way traffic stops are done. So for example, if an officer pulls up on a car and a car decides they want to speed off, right? Let them. Why you have to pay Super RoboCop to chase them down to find out? 9 times out of 10, you have the information from their license plate. If they are using this app and you make it to the point of scanning their QR code and capturing their data, you can show up at their house. Period. If they no longer live there, that's fine. I'm pretty sure there's a way that you can find this person later, or hopefully it's nothing that serious where you have to kind of like find them within a certain amount of time, right? And if that's the case, get the detectives involved, and that's beyond you. We're talking about regular, average patrol officers, state troopers doing traffic stops, killing our black and brown men and women. So,
yeah, if it's not immediate danger, then why go through the chase and everything? Not to mention with these cameras and everything, they're able to basically follow the person home. So I mean, it doesn't even make any sense. I saw a crime in Philly. I was watching on the news. Guy shot a woman at a bus stop. They literally watched him walk to the train station, get on the train, and watch them go all the way home. You know what I mean? So the murder was solved just by watching the camera. Pretty much.
Right. And, I'm glad you brought that up as well. I had a conversation with the public safety commissioner in Vegas. He was a retired correction commissioner of corrections here in Westchester County. So I was talking through some people. I got to connect with him and, run this idea by him. And, he's all for like solutions to help get cops off of black and brown people. Like that's his main goal. And he said that's why he's in the positions that he's in. Like he's trying to make it to DC where he could actually help change a lot of the things that's going on. But some of the feedback he gave me from my app was I should skip the app part and go straight to designing a camera, because just like they have the red light cameras now that are capturing speeding tickets,
right,
or going through the red light, not speeding tickets yet. Soon they're going to have heavy surveillance where this is going to constantly just be catching people and their little mishaps of, broken taillights or not failing to signal or, whatever the case may be traffic wise. And right. I'm just sitting here, and that annoys me because who wants to be under constant surveillance?
Well, I thought they had that already, because don't they have the black box for the cars now? Because remember the incident that happened in South Carolina where the cop just jumped out the car and started opening fire on the black guy, and he said that the black guy had jumped out of his car and jumped up on the officer's car or whatever. It was like the mayor and them was listening to it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like a little black box was in the car, and it was no type of interaction. No type of interaction between the cop and that guy, and he was, wrongfully murdered.
I think the black box was in the police car.
Yeah, but you know
It
what?
wasn't in the man's car.
But the black box, that's what I'm saying. But the black box is, they're constantly coming up with newer and newer ideas of, new information technology. The black box is a great thing to have. You know why? Because I don't know if you can necessarily turn the black box on and off. With the body cam was dope. It's a dope idea. But how many times have we seen where the body cam was turned off and we're missing minutes of footage that could have maybe, if we could have the proof of why this person should still be living and shouldn't have lost their life.
I don't think she was talking about a body cam. I think you was talking about the actual cameras that's in the street lights. Is that what you're talking about earlier, or no?
No, I'm saying.
No, I was asking her. I thought she was talking about like the cameras that's already in place and stuff like that.
Right. So I guess they're either going to enhance those to capture more,
right,
or they're going to create a whole new system that is specific to catching the things that it doesn't catch now. Now it catches your license plate, right?
Right.
Now it will be able to scan to pick up things like ideally this is where he believes the technology is going to go. So it'll be able to pick up whether or not you have a broken tail light, or something hanging off of your mirror in your car, or whatever you can think about, little small cases that you can catch just from the body of your car, the outside of your car, and maybe with the extent of certain things inside your car, that's going to be created, and that's how they're going to be able to eliminate traffic stops with officers.
Well, they already have it, because that's how they catch a car with repossession, because
they
have what they call not shut you down. Well, they can't do that, but they have what they call license plate recognition. So if your car is keep pinging in a certain area, it alerts the repo guys that in that area that they should look for your car. You know what I mean? So I mean, they pretty much have it. I guess they can modify it to different things.
Right. And my concern is also that, we're not equipped with tools to defend ourselves. And any kind of, it's their say only. Their say. Now the video provides a little more details, but it's like, I don't even have a fighting chance to say or defend myself. So I'm just hoping that this becomes a tool that people can just feel a little more comfort that they've done everything that they can do to comply, or to just, get out of their situation without losing their cool.
Bottom line, yeah.
To go back to your point, Jess, they do have black boxes in cars. They're more like for the more up-to-date cars. And this is according to usatoday.com. Y'all can look it up if you want. 2013 article talked about it. Said that they are now built into more than 90% of new cars. And the government is considering making them mandatory. That was as of 2013. So might be a space there, because I was thinking too that your car, sorry, not your car, but your app would be good for that, for any particular car. Whereas if the QR code is on, say, the dashboard, the cop can just go in and just scan the dashboard.
Right.
Right.
They'll not even get out their car, though. That's the whole point. You want this thing. I would think that it would be great, like, if it could be already on, so that if you're already turned, if you're in close proximity to a police car, it could just scan. The less contact, what I'm getting from what you're saying is the less contact, the better. Making this app so that they don't have to get out the car. They don't have to walk up to you with their hand on their gun. They don't have to make people feel threatened. They just, like whatever happened with your girlfriend in a car, who I think I know who that is. But, right. But, with the flashlight, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of that type of stuff, that's intimidating, and sometimes things have happened just because out of fear. People didn't know how to handle the situation when they got approached by a cop. Maybe their parents didn't have that talk with them, like, this is what we face in America every day. You know what I mean? Maybe their only interaction was what they see and how their friends have been treated and thrown on the ground when a cop, approaches them. So their first instinct is, when they get pulled over, to jump out the car and run.
Right, fight or flight. You're right. And there are some features that I'm looking to roll out later on. There's a lot of legal ramifications that I have to just really figure out. Yeah. Some of the things I want to do is be able to have like a language, something that could, a translator, where somebody is coming from a different country and they're driving here, they don't understand what the orders are that the officer may give them. They may not even understand. And I didn't even realize that once you're pulled over, you're considered detained. So what do you do?
Mm.
If you don't know how to communicate with the person, the same language. Also mental health. I'm a paraprofessional by day. I work with children with special needs. There was a child in Syracuse, New York the other day who got detained by a police officer in a Target because they thought he was trying to steal something. And he was an autistic child. And he had a group of friends who were with him who just so happened to come to his aid, but the cop had him on his stomach already in the middle of a store.
Right.
While these kids are surrounding him, crying and pleading with this officer, all the things that are wrong with the situation, you know? So it bothers me. And, you know, I just want to incorporate everything. Somebody even told me veterans, like, but that they're veterans that they suffer from PTSD, you know?
Right.
So these are things that I definitely want to be able to incorporate so that way anybody that wants to be a responsible citizen gets pulled over and just want to have the things that they need just to get through whatever it is that they got to get through. They just are equipped with it by the simple device of their phone. And I didn't answer your question quite clearly a few questions ago, but one of the things that I want to provide is one of those dashboard phone holders, either that or one of the vent holders along with the app, you know, that way you have no reason to not have your phone visible when the officer pulled you over.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Or something that just lets them know that they have that your app. You know what I mean? It's kind of like in your own home where you have like the Sloman shield and all that other stuff like that, where it's like it lets people know off the back, you know, the camera's watching you or something like that. So when the cop pulls you over, you might have something like a sticker on the car, let them know, like, you know, you're gonna have to ask for the QR code or something like that. And you know,
that's a good point.
You know what I mean?
I think something that's really, really, really important, but I know we getting ready to wrap up soon, but I think that's something that's really, really important is continue education, no matter what position you're in.
Yeah. To have
we are really here today.
I'm telling you, this is what it's about.
I love this. I love
this.
It's
the blue hoodies. It's the blue hoodies.
It's the blue hoodies,
like,
right? Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, you know, continued education is very important. See, these cops, they take their tests and they go through the agility test and they go through the written test in the very beginning. And then they have these brief little refresher courses, or maybe they're getting updated on a new thing that's about to roll out. But for the most part, what happened to the ground rules that you're supposed to be following? You know what I mean? What would make a cop pull for their gun before they pull for their taser?
Fair.
I think a lot of times a police officer, and I've been saying this, and I think the biggest thing with cops are
they was nobody's at one
a
point.
lot of people are cowards, man. You know what I mean? Like you signed on for the job, but you really wasn't that kind of person. You know what I mean? Like you ain't never had a street fight in your life. You know, you ain't never had a scuffle. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily means that they shouldn't be completely on the force, but I think you gotta go through something in order to get that job. Like I think I was telling y'all one time, I had this woman down here, she's Caucasian. Her son got a job in New York City, being a New York City police officer, but he's from here in Delaware. And this is what they do. They get these people from out of these areas and they take them to the city. And when he got the job, I think maybe like, let's say February, I talked to her in March and she was like, I said, what happened to your son? She's like, he quit the force. And I said, well, what happened? He was like, well, one of his friends got shot. I'm like, what do you think was going to happen? Yeah. This is New York City. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, don't get it twisted. Delaware ain't no walk in the park. Okay. Cause I know one thing, I ain't hear that many gunshots. I mean, where Adrienne and I live right now is not where we lived before. And it's not Brooklyn, and it's not, you know, a heavily populated area. Like even Yonkers, somebody got shot in Yonkers. What was a police officer or
I was just gonna say,
hey, Adrienne, she moved down there with them niggas, man. I moved to Delaware. I got as far away from niggas as I possibly can.
He did. Nah, I lived in different areas. You know what I'm saying? But where my house was, it was real. Like that's why I put the living room upstairs. I came home and I noticed I was watching TV and I'm like, dag, they shooting on the east side. Let me turn this TV up a little bit. Like, ew, that was dumb. You know, you can hear, oh, that sound like that come from the projects over there in South Bridge. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? I didn't want to be like that. So I put the living room upstairs. You know what I'm saying?
You turned the TV up when they were shooting?
Yo, you get used to it.
No,
and
you
that's the
don't.
problem.
No, that's the problem. We don't get used to that. That's not
Nah,
something to get used to.
No. Listen what I'm saying. The cops down there are desensitized. They are used to something happening like all the time. I've seen stuff happening out there.
Yeah, when I moved from Brooklyn, I looked at that area down there, man. I said, listen, I know these niggas in Brooklyn. I know how that works. Down here is different. I'm not moving with them niggas. I'm out here on the other side.
I don't blame you. I'm from the Bronx. My mother lives in the Bronx. When I tell you the other day, I know you guys heard about the train situation, right? The net that got on the train.
Right.
So I used to be an avid train rider, right? So things like that, you hear nutty things. You know, you're from Brooklyn, so we go through some things. But the same day that happened, 13 people across the city got shot.
Mm-hmm.
3 people from our own neighborhood, and probably one train stop away, which was less than a mile, all at the same time. At least the 4 that I knew about. And I sit back and I look at these situations, and I'm like, listen, things are getting worse. And it kind of softens my heart sometimes, because I'm like, I'm out here fighting, trying to do what I can do in any capacity I can to save our lives. And they sitting out here and just being reckless with theirs. So there's a lot of different avenues and a lot of different things that need to be addressed in today's world, in this society. It's crazy.
One thing about us too, man, is that, living in New York, we grew up in Brooklyn. So economics keeps you in a particular place in New York. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when Black people, we go outside the state or we go to a better circumstance, we still gravitate towards this hood lifestyle. It's like, to be honest with you, whether you stay in Wilmington or whether you stay in Newark or whether you stay in Newcastle, these are areas in Delaware, the rent is pretty much the same. You know what I mean? But I think people choose to live. I mean, in this area, I'm not talking about New York City. New York City is different.
No, I know what you're talking about. I live both places. Remember, I'm just saying, like, when it comes to Newark and Dover would be the difference out of all the places I live. Because the lower you go, it seems like the lower the rent is.
Yeah, well, I guess the further south you go anyway, it always gets, I guess it's a little better. You know what I mean? In some situations, you know what I mean?
Except for Atlanta. Atlanta's rocking right now. But I know we got to wrap it up. Adrienne, thank you so much again. It's
no problem.
I thought we was going to be able to run through some hot topics and things I wanted to talk about today.
So
but this was great.
We have her back for that.
We're going to have her back?
I would love to come back. I would love to come back.
You don't have to just come and talk about your app. I mean, there's other things going on too. I know you got a voice about other stuff too. So,
anything that has anything to do with the culture.
Yeah.
Except for gossip. Like, don't hit me with no Will Smith. I don't want to hear that. The Kim Kardashian stuff. You get that in the bag. But I'm open to talking about anything.
You know what this show is about: the giving and exchanging of information.
Awesome.
So much like you doing right now, we learning and we extending this information out to other people. So this is what it's about. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I appreciate that, and thank you so much.
We appreciate you. So
appreciate you. Yeah.
We're going to get ready to wrap, but before we go, we want you to tell the people where they can reach you.
Awesome. You guys can check me out on Instagram at SafeStops. And then you could also follow me at _119 spelled out. And that's pretty much it. Facebook, Adrienne Michel.
Gotcha.
You might catch me on IG more than likely.
Okay. All right. And the Only One Mic podcast is available on all major platforms that you stream your pods on. Please don't forget to rate the show and subscribe. Also, if you'd like to get in contact with the Only One Mic podcast, you can reach us via email at Instagram and Twitter at the Only One Mic P1, Facebook and LinkedIn at the Only One Mic podcast, and email at the Only One Mic 00@gmail.com. Also, we're on YouTube. Only One Mic Podcast. Only One Mic Podcast. Don't put the in there. It's not going to come up. Only One Mic Podcast. And as always, I tell you to speak your truth quietly and clearly and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant, because they too have their story to tell. Adrienne Michel, we thank you once again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yes, indeed. And as always, I say we never had to run from the Ku Klux Klan, and we shouldn't have to run from a black man. Peace.
Paid.